All right, hey everybody, Chris Duncan here with another episode of the Daily Duncan. It's my pleasure today to be able to speak with Rob Pearson, a friend and neighbor here in the Talega area in San Clemente. It's been hard to get a hold of each other with our competing schedules, so I'm so glad to get you here. And we're going to wrap for a little bit in a second, but just to introduce Rob is a marketer extraordinaire, and a pretty funny guy. Most importantly for me, though, he's my son Rico's T-ball coach. And the season kind of crashed and burned before it started there, but we'll get going, I think, hopefully at some point. And really enjoyed Rob's work with the team there. And so that's the kind of guy he is. We'll get into that a little bit too. But with all that, welcome, Rob. And hey, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself as well, kind of close out the intro there.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, hasn't it, for everybody? So definitely. I run an agency called Rareview, and I try to be as active as possible throughout the community. I love baseball. I love sports. And more importantly, I love these little kids like my son, your son, getting them involved and getting them active when they're young. And as I'm sure I'm kind of an over communicator, kind of a, get going, get moving, like get things done type guy. So, it's been a fun process. This whole, last 6-7 weeks has kind of thrown everything. I actually miss baseball and T-ball and that world more than anything.
Well, let's talk about that. We want to talk about like sort of generally how you're dealing with the COVID-19 circumstance, but I know that you played college sports. What else motivated you to want to volunteer, to work with like the T-ball program, other than your son is the same age as mine? They're about 4 years old.
Sure.
It's so important, like you said, and I think volunteering is so gratifying, right? And being of service like that. What was it that motivated you to want to be that T-ball player?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think there's a couple things. There's a couple main motivators. One is, we kind of did AYSO before this, and I just assistant coach. I was like, we'll just kind of test it out. And my son has, call it, all 8 of his cousins in Talega area. So I've been watching their sports for a long period of time. And I've just come to realize that, a lot of their development depends on the coach, especially at a young age, right? And so I didn't want to leave that up to chance. So I decided I was kind of going to take this by the reins and try to run it for the kids, for the 9 or 10 kids that we have. And it's something I'm passionate about. I love sports. I've been involved in sports ever since I was, call it, 3 years old. And, whether it was soccer or baseball or football or whatever. And I have a very specific way of doing things. So I just didn't want to leave it to chance to someone else. So I figured I kind of have a mentality of, if you commit yourself to something, whether it's volunteering or your own business or whatever, you go all in or don't commit at all. There's always that option, even with T-ball, right? It doesn't matter what level. Like I kind of look at it as those are 9 kids that are looking to me to like help develop their skills for the future. And so if I have, go in half-baked or like don't really put the attention in, then I'm not doing a disservice for just myself. I'm doing it for the 9 other kids. So
I get that. You might be the same way. I played a lot of sports growing up, and those coaches, the work ethic, the teamwork, all of that carries through into everything I do, right? So I love that you're getting involved in that part of it so early, right? Why not at that earliest stage where you can really start shaping those things? Even at 4.5 or whatever, 5 years old in T-ball. So cool. Thanks for doing that. And so, all right. So broadly speaking as well. So we got sidetracked with the season. You've got this marketing company, Rareview, which I'll put up here. How have you been dealing with, with the COVID-19 crisis in terms of family life, work life, and all that?
It's been interesting. Family life has been crazy. I've got twins that are 2.5 years old, almost 3. And I've got a 5-year-old, Rico's age. It's been chaos. That's the only way I can put it. Absolute chaos at all times. The good news about our agency is we never really required anyone ever be in our office. It was kind of if you had a meeting or needed to show up, you could be there, you could work there all day. Like it's kind of a co-op space for our agency to come in and people be able to work together and whatever. But we were essentially virtual. At any given time, there could be 3 or 4 people in the office or 15. It didn't matter. That's just how we operated. So this is kind of an easy extension for our agency. We closed the office as soon as this happened. We didn't wait. And we kind of took the approach of, we work most of the time on Zoom anyway. So it's been a relatively easy thing in the sense of our agency and our office and our workload. We've probably had better communication with our clients over this period of time because now they're on Zoom, and we do require all of our staff to be on video for Zoom because there is that human connection. But outside of that, I mean, it's an easy extension for us. It's been good. I think the challenging part is, having 2.5-year-olds run around, or they're at nap time right now, which is good for us. But just managing, managing that when you're on calls all day,
We were talking about it. It's like, I feel like I'm busier than ever. I mean, how have you been managing all the new things that you have, right? You got these you're working at home full time now, right? So you got the family obligations and the work obligations and whatever, the spousal obligations, community obligations. How have you been sort of managing to try and fit everything together?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else, right? Like the first 2 weeks, we had a lot of mental breakdowns. There was a lot of yelling and screaming. And I'm talking about me, right? Like a lot of tears. But I think we kind of found a nice rhythm, I think, it's about realizing that your days are about helping the kids like where they need help, but also trying to run your business. And I don't think any one is more important. I think they're both just as important. So the business has to give a little bit and the kids have to give a little bit. It's a little bit harder when you say that to a 2.5-year-old versus a 5-year-old.
Right.
But we found a nice rhythm between like my wife and I switching off on like working with them and spending time with them on school stuff, and trying not to put too much of the screen time in front of them, and but we do whatever we can. We're surviving. I look at it as more of survival, but we have found a rhythm. We joked a little bit prior to the call that I'm not sure we want to go back now. My wife and I like start dinner at 5 o'clock. We have, a glass of wine. The kids are all around. Like we're spending really good quality time. So we're just trying to focus on the positive things right now. There's a lot of meltdowns, a lot of temper tantrums, a lot of crying, but for the most part, it's been good.
Yeah, I agree, right? It is tough, but then that was going to be my next question. Are you able to go? Are you even going to be able to go back? Right? You're going to leave that behind?
No.
I was saying I got the long hair, but I got a little bit better tan. You get out, get some walks in the middle of the day. I've been wearing shorts and been more barefoot than I have since law school in Hawaii. It's going to be hard to leave that, right?
It is, yeah.
So, all right. So, how about this? Rareview. Well, first of all, talk a little bit about what your experience is in marketing leading up to Rareview, what Rareview is, and then what how you're functioning in terms of the marketing platform with the crisis going on, how things might have changed there.
Sure. Rareview is a full service agency. We're based out of Irvine, California. I've been doing marketing for it dates me, doesn't it? 20 plus years now. I started with in mergers and acquisitions in New York City, and then I moved into marketing after that. My degree is in marketing, and then I just went from big brand to big brand, finishing my career at Men's Warehouse up in San Francisco.
Right.
And I think at that point I decided my wife and I were moving back with our first kid, and I had decided there's just really, I couldn't take corporate America anymore. I was kind of at my wit's end. I didn't fit in well in corporate America my whole career. I mean, I bounced around a lot from job to job. I hated most of the jobs I was in. I didn't like the structure. It just wasn't for me. It's for some people. It's just not for me. So coming out of that, when we moved back, my brother had started Rareview in 2002. So we're 18 plus years old as a design and development firm. And one thing he always got asked is, do you guys, we are a high-end quality firm. Like everything we do is high touch, white glove service. So they always ask, do you have a marketing arm? Do you have a branding arm? You know, could you recommend anything? And we never did. We just didn't feel quality was there. So when, 6 years ago, we launched the marketing and brand side of our business. And I kind of headed that up with my brother, and he runs the design and development side, and I run the marketing. And we pair them together. So a designer sits with a marketer, or, you know, a designer works with a marketer at all times. And it ensures the best of both worlds, good design with good marketing, which is almost impossible to find these days, right? You either have a really solid acquisition firm that just beats the drum on acquisition, or a really good design firm that does really good design, but their acquisition's terrible, right? And so we've kind of married the two, because my brother has 25 years in design and creative, and I have 20 plus years in marketing. So it's been something that works out. The other good thing is my brother and I get along well. So
in the area
we can manage he lives a block and a half from me.
Hey,
So,
hey, before
yeah.
you go on, something that you said sort of jumped out to me, though, because I went through this too. You're in a great spot right now, right? And you got the company going, got the families all settled in. But there was a moment, it seems, where you made this transition, right? You had this prior life. You had sort of been plugged into the corporate culture, and you were probably living a very, very sort of comfortable, predictable life. And I want to ask you, was it hard to make that transition, even though, so now it's like, well, thank God I did it. But, you know, tell us about that moment when you decided you were going to kind of leave that comfortable life behind and sort of take a risk on yourself, and maybe what helped you make that transition.
Yeah, so I could count on one hand, luckily, the 5 like hardest things I've ever gone through in my life, right?
Sure.
And I often reflect on these things. It's just the kind of person I am. I would say making the jump from corporate America to my own business with my brother is up there in the top 5 of the hardest things I ever did, both emotionally, physically, financially, everything, right?
So now it seems like it makes so much sense, right?
It does, yeah. It's easier to look at 6 years down the line and say like, oh, like thank God I did this, right? But at the time, it was kind of a risk for all of us. I think number one, having a wife that was like okay with that gave me a little bit of confidence to do it. But I've kind of always had an unhealthy relationship with risk, if you will. I think that's the best way to put it. I like taking a lot of really big risks. I think as soon as I tend to get comfortable in any sort of situation, I take a big risk and try something new. It's just who I am. It's the nature. I guess I'm the third I have 2 older brothers. And so, as the young one of my 2 brothers, I've always been able to jump off the cliff like first. Right. And so, though my brother's been running this agency way before I was, but I'll tell you, if you ask my tax guy, right, he'll say, what happened to your income? Like this year, what happened? Like you've lost everything. We took a huge cut across everything we did to make this work. But there was just something I knew like intrinsically that like, it doesn't matter how hard this is going to be. It's going to be the right thing for me to do. And I kind of like, it's easy to say now that, oh, I took that risk at that time and did it. But look, it took me 20 years to do it, or, 15 years to do it.
You were building up that whole 15 years to doing it. It wasn't, it just happened in 1 month or 1 year. It was a building up to that process. Yeah.
And I'm still working every day on it, right? Like I'm still not where I would love to be across everything. So it's a constant process. It's the journey, but let's be clear. Like it's not like just one day you're like, shoot, I'm going to go work for myself and I'm going to jump off the cliff. It's like 15 years of walking to the edge and coming back, and walking to the edge and coming back. And I think I just had enough of corporate America and I couldn't take it anymore. And I think I just like the risk. You can always go get a job. You can't always, start your own thing. Now my timing was very questionable because my wife was pregnant with my first son, and we were moving from San Francisco back down to Orange County, and we had just bought a house. So you could say like,
there was nothing else going on. Yeah.
No, you could say like all the things stacked. So moving, new job, and having a baby all happened within like a 3-month period during that time. So if you're going to stack it, you might as well stack it all together, right?
Right. Might as well have all the information at one time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think as long as you're willing to take the risk, right? And just know that, you know, when you jump off, you just got to go full force, right? You got to choose to just go, and you can't. A lot of times I see like people dipping like a side gig or whatever, and that's all cool, but like none of it's going to flourish until you give it your all. And so that's kind of how I am. Yeah.
Good lesson there. Yeah, no, I love it. All right. So let me ask you this. Maybe you can get into the link between design and marketing again as part of this, but we talked a little bit about it. Marketing as part of politics is something that I think we're just maybe at the leading edge of, right? Like that there's a link there that hasn't been fully explored. We talked about it a little bit. I know you've got some interest in that in marketing as part of politics. How do you think a company like Rareview or just your experience in marketing could play into something that is very close to my heart, which is like a political campaign?
So I kind of look at political stuff and political campaigns and, political marketing and political design and all these things as ancient. Like it's the blockbuster, right?
Yes. You mean like yard signs and all that is like
100. I mean, yard signs. There's like, I think I got a bunch at the time. I got a bunch of like flyers from people in the mail, which I mean, go directly in the trash. I actually didn't get one from you. The one that comes to my mind is like all the Bloomberg stuff that just like blanketed everything for just a waste of total money. And you see it, right? Like it's all this traditional stuff, whether it's Democrat or Republican or whatever it is, like it's just a spend. They use digital as an extension of their traditional marketing versus digital as a driver to change the way that they talk to people. And I think that's what I think I would like to see going forward. So for instance, if we were engaged in a political campaign, Rareview would take a digital first approach at understanding your audience as a candidate. Like as a candidate, what do you stand for? What does your audience stand for? How are you going to talk to them in a native, like easygoing way, digital first? These are digital people. They are not driving by, seeing your yard sign or the guy on the corner, like waving with his kids. Like it just doesn't matter. Like to me, that kind of stuff doesn't matter. Blanketing like Facebook with fake news and, ugly ass logos that people come up with and stuff like that. To me, it almost diminishes the value of the candidate to me. Right. If you think about how you represent like your brand, your family, your businesses, Rareview in general, everything is high end, high quality, high touch. It's communicating effectively with an audience. And I think that it's no different than it is from a brand selling makeup or retailer selling product or a company selling businesses services to a political campaign. You're selling you, right? The value is you. And so I think what's often missed is that connection, and that connection on a digital forefront. And that's how people operate. We see now, right, today more than ever, that everything is digital. And I think, we've been a digital firm for 18 years now. So I think we're starting to really see that kind of lift now of everyone going, oh, shoot, like I got to be there and I got to be there better. Yeah. And I think in marketing, one of the biggest disruptive things that can happen is there be a disruption in political advertising from the ground up.
Really? So, I mean,
I do.
Broadly speaking, as a disruption to the marketing field as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you think about the kind of money that's in politics and people spending money to get out there, I could probably look at a campaign budget for Trump or Bloomberg or, Biden or whomever, right? Doesn't matter. Left or right, doesn't matter. And there's probably 75% waste in there, just blanketed crap awareness that's going to people that don't care.
They've been doing for 100 years.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's time to give up, right? Like, it's just time not to do those things. And honestly, like we see it now, it doesn't resonate with people. People are not connecting with candidates anymore. It's becoming, I don't know, it's becoming almost a far-fetched idea that a candidate represents you on no matter what side you're on, you know? And that's, to me, that's troublesome.
Yeah, me too. I love that you had said connection, right? Because I think that's
Yeah.
what you should feel in who you're voting for. It's not that that they check the box for X, Y, and Z policy. You should feel like you actually have a connection with that person. You like the person understands you, the person values you, the person is going
Yeah.
to fight for you, right? So
Right.
how do you convey that through a marketing platform, right? I mean, what's a sort of the summary of that? Like how would you kind of broadly pitch how a digital marketing campaign would create that connection?
I think it's about creating a connection with your audience that drives aspiration. And so what I mean by that is, look, we're all looking to be a better versions of ourselves at all times. Like that's just how we live, right? Like whether we dream of it or fantasize about it or taking actions to be better. And I think what we want is a candidate that is almost a better version of ourselves that represents who we want to be,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think when you look back on history, it tells you a lot. Candidates that won, and again, politics aside, I don't care about left or right. Um, Candidates that won that were great or like were thought of as great by their party,
Yes.
were backed because they were aspirational leaders that people like loved because they aspired to be that person,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And so I think that's what it really means to be a political leader. And I don't think we have that. I don't think we've had that in a long time. I don't think it's just a Trump issue. I think it's a overall political issue across the board, from a governor to a mayor to the president. And I think that, you know, I would like to see a candidate that represents what I love. And I love for that person to be someone that I'm like, wow, this person is really intelligent in this area and really aspirational in this area and an incredible leader for these reasons. And, that's what I would look for if I were hiring an agency to run my brand, to represent my brand in an aspirational way. If that's what I'd look for in a candidate that I voted for, I connect with this person. And though I may not agree with every single word that person says, I know that that person is a leader that I would follow, and
Yep.
there are people that are like that, right? And that have been like that in our political history. And I think at some point, whether that was 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever, we've lost kind of that
That quality.
connection. Yeah. And it's kind of now just been a bully fight to the top across, the aisle. And I don't
Sure.
know, to me,
Yeah.
that's the loss. The whole foundation of politics is the battle between like right versus left, and then coming to compromise at the middle, right? That's no different than a marriage, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
why did
how
we lose
that's
that?
how you resolve issues. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that both sides feel like they have some buy-in, right? And
Yeah. And
other
look,
sides feel like, yeah,
you gotta sell the issues, right? And how they relate to the people, but you also have to show them how you're gonna lead them to, whatever the outcome is that you're presenting. And I think there's a very native way of doing that in a digital format. And it doesn't include direct mail. It doesn't include signs in your front yard. And it doesn't include those things. It includes like a easy way of how I live and work, right? And it should integrate into those things. You shouldn't make me work to figure out what it is you represent.
messages. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
love that.
yeah.
I'm taking notes here on that. If perhaps in my future we might get into something like that.
Oh, it does. It does.
So let me wrap up with this.
Yeah.
You got a little note on here about lines from movies. I'm gonna try and stump
Oh,
you.
yeah. All
Okay,
right.
put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little line, and we'll see
Oh
what you.
no, I'm not going to get any of them right. Watch.
I'll give you one. This just came to my mind while we were doing this. Okay. Uh, Plenty howler surfers out there, but we blow them away, bro. Any idea?
Is that North Shore?
That is North Shore. You got it.
All right.
Woo!
All right.
Man, put
Yeah.
you on the spot. No prep.
Hey, look, you know what? I'm a guy I was originally from Arizona. So I always dreamed about being Rick Kane,
That's right. He was from Arizona.
Never came to fruition, but hey.
That's awesome, man, because that's an oldie but goodie. But we used to sit down there on Capo Beach at
Yeah.
a buddy's beach house and surf all summer and watch that movie over and over and over again every night. So
I used to dream about how come they can't make a wave pool that I can ride in Arizona? What the hell is going on?
yeah, what's going on? Where is it? Now they have them. All
They
right.
do. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rob. Really appreciate the time, man. And we will definitely be in touch, I'm sure. Hopefully we'll get the T-ball practice going. We get back into normal.
Can't wait.
It would be amazing. Thanks for all you've done for the community. And definitely we'll keep in touch and keep it going. All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks. I love what you're doing, man. I've been watching your shows and they're wonderful. So keep it up, dude. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.